today is we need to hire somebody, the HR's intake, the department's work, the finalization of the process, the offer, the onboarding, and then the next up, or the finally will be the timeline. And then we'll save space at the end for Q&As. But please, if you have questions throughout this, throughout our slide deck, please go ahead and enter them in chat, and we'll go ahead and answer them at the end. Next slide, please. Oh, that's me, sorry. So the first step is I want to hire somebody, now what? So in this case, the department contact will open up a case with the Academic Affairs Business Office. We have the link there. The HR contact will assess the situation with the department. For example, is this a new position? Is it a recruitment to backfill one? With all that said, is also an exception to hire? Is this going to be a staff promotional opportunity for the department, or is it going to be open to the public? Based off the department's needs, is it going to be a career position? Should it be limited? Is it a temp position that we need currently, a contract? There's a lot of variables, and that's why the HR contact will work closely with the department to see what's going to work best for that area. And then finally as well, how many openings for that specific position. And then the steps after that are going to be the approvals. So that's the fiscal approval, central compensation approval, and then also JD updates. So it could be that we're creating a brand new JD for the department, but also it could be that we have a vacancy, but the position has changed over a year since it was last empty, and we have to reassess what that JD now needs for the department and moving forward. And so my colleague Kathleen will cover this slide.
And the next slide is the hire online process and the next steps. So the AABO will send intake questions to the department contact. That's usually the HR contact will send questions again to the hiring supervisor or anybody that is helping with the recruitment. Some of the things that we will ask is, should the position be advertised? Will the posting need, will the applicants need a cover letter for the posting? Is the position fully remote, fully on-site, or hybrid? And the qualifications and screening criteria, and perhaps maybe a questionnaire is needed for this. The information that we get as an HR contact from the department will be submitted to post to Hire Online, which we send to the talent advisor. Central HR can take up to 4 business days to have it post and have the live link ready for the applicants to apply. The department will screen, interview, and select the top candidates. And department has the option for central HR to screen the candidates, or all candidates could be forwarded to the department for review. If the department wants central HR to screen, it will take several business days after the position closes for that referral pool to be sent over to the hiring manager. Depending on the department's process, the screening and interview process can take up to a month or minimum. So it just depends on how quickly we get through the screening process on that. And then the department completes the final selection report with the final candidate as the top scoring candidate. So one thing that we need to ensure is that once the department selects the candidate, HR contacts review and make sure that those the top candidate has the top scoring on the final selection report. Next slide.
And so the interviews have occurred, the screening has all been completed, and the department now has their final candidate. And this is the next step. So they'll notify our office, the HR contact, of the final candidate or final candidates if there's trying to narrow down between 2 or 3. Often they will request the skill survey request. So that is the reference check. That gets the feedback from their previous supervisors as well as their former coworkers or anyone who could attest to that candidate's working ability. The report completion really depends on the speed of the references. So we've seen that return in 2 business days to over a business week, especially if the supervisors or the past supervisors take longer to complete it. And then for internal candidates, there is the option where we can request a file review from the candidate's current department. And when we mean internal to UCSD. If they're from another UC location, that's considered external, so we wouldn't be able to request that file review from them. Move forward. Once that top candidate is selected, we work with the EDI for the offer, get that generated and hire online. And then once we get that offer of what we want to make the initial offer to the candidate, we route that for approvals in hire line. This could take up to 3 business days. And then additional time is required if there's any sign-on sign-on bonus, or if there's any moving reimbursement requests, and that should be discussed with your HR contact before starting any approvals. For once central HR reviews the offer and once we get the approval email, the hiring manager can extend the verbal offer. Do not extend a paper or digital offer letter. That comes after they do a verbal acceptance. And it is the responsibility of the hiring manager to notify HR of that candidate's decision, whether they want to accept the offer, they counter, or decline. And if that candidate declines, then the manager has to notify us so that we can plan the next steps. For example, maybe they're countering for another offer. We'll work on what would be an acceptable amount to counter with. Or if they just decline and it's a failed search, or maybe we go to the second candidate. However, if the candidate accepts.
If the candidate has verbally accepted, great. The AABO will start the onboarding process. The HR contact will send the official offer letter, and this official offer letter goes through one of our systems. So let the candidate know that the HR contact will send. The hiring manager does not need to draft anything. We use the onboarding solutions system to generate that offer letter. The written offer letter is sent again through onboarding solutions. And then once the candidate signs the offer letter, that signed copy will be sent to the hiring manager. A candidate start date will be several weeks out to allow for UC Path processing. If it's an internal candidate, sometimes it could take a couple of weeks to get that processing time submitted. IT needs to set up for the account, and always after, and that is only done after the UC Path information is uploaded. And we also consider ample time for live scan or background check to be completed and results returned back to the HR contact and to the hiring manager. And again, it's very important that the candidate must be cleared or the report be finalized prior to the start date. So if there is any delays, we will notify, as the HR contact will notify the hiring manager whether or not that start date will be pushed to another date. Next slide, please.
And so after all that, it's time for the first day. The HR contact will coordinate with the new hire about information for their onboarding. So for example, are they going to be an in-person candidate? Are they fully remote? Based off that information, we'll coordinate with them to do the off HR paperwork. It's the manager's responsibility to provide the schedule to the new hire. So once we finish with them, it's more like, where do they go after that? Whether they report to their office, if they have another Zoom that they jump on, etc. And on that first day, and when we meet the new hire for onboarding, we provide a lot of information to them. So a lot of UC Pass stuff, their direct deposit, their employee disclosures, how to update their taxes. This is also very important for any staff who might be fully remote, because their tax situation may vary. If they're in out of state, they get their benefits information, they get eco time, the probation period, how to get a campus card, additional paperwork, so CANRA, the California Mandatory Reporting Act, the Remote Hybrid Work Agreement, also the work location form.
And then the next is the recruitment timeline. And then we just like to reiterate, would be the best case scenario. So just a general overview of this. Minor JD updates. So those updates, once the hiring manager says we would like to fill the position or vacancy, or create a new position, it could take up to 1 business week for edits. So what I do is what we do is we prepare the JD, send the JD off to have the hiring manager review and make any appropriate edits necessary. And then it's routed for approval to central HR. And then once we get the notification that JD is published and ready to review, we use that JD and post it on Hire Online, and that could take up to 2 business days. Then it's 2 weeks for the open recruitment processing, depending on if it 2 weeks normal standard. If it is a promotional, that can vary. 2 to 3 weeks for screening and interviewing candidates. And again, this is all dependent upon the availability and the schedules for the hiring manager, the hiring department, and the candidates as well. 2 business days, we like to give a cushion of 2 business days for salary approval. And then 3 weeks for candidates for hire date, depending on, and that is also considering professional courtesy if the candidate needs to give 2 weeks notice to their current employer, or any timelines regarding system uploads, information to be uploaded into our system before they start. So all in all, 10 weeks to hire in best case scenario from case submission to date of hire. We've seen these timelines vary. Sometimes they can be less than the 10 weeks. Sometimes they can be longer.